Hey everyone, welcome to Market of the Moment for the week of November 29th. Michael with the Oldham team, got Chris Madrid, guaranteed rate. What's up, Chris?
Hey man, thanks for having me.
Well, good to be back. We took Thanksgiving week off.
No break.
So hope you had a pleasant Thanksgiving and a good one.
Oh yeah. All the turkey, all the desserts. Yes.
We actually went with Mexican food this year.
Nice.
So we had enchiladas and tacos and things of that nature.
Very nice.
Little switch. Then I got
That's a good
Thanksgiving
switch.
On Sunday night. I got Thanksgiving dinner. So
very nice. Hey, for the first time I smoked a turkey. Well, I guess that's you call it smoked, even though you do it on a grill, right?
Yeah.
So 4 hours of my life I dedicated to smoking this turkey, but gosh darn, was it the best turkey I've ever had ever in the history of ever. Yeah. So great.
All right, well, let's get on. And Chris with guaranteed rate, going to catch us up on the current mortgage rates, talk a little bit about trends, and then we're going to talk about the new conventional loan limits and what that might mean to people next year.
Yes. Man, it has been, for anyone, whether you hear about the stock market or you follow the stock market, man, it has been an interesting couple of weeks. And really the last couple of days with the Fed meeting that just passed, and inflation just being such a key component of the American economy right now. So, and thankfully enough, rates I think in general are obviously we're higher than we were last year, right? I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But as far as where they should be right now versus where they actually are, it's not terrible. So just for some perspective, the US average, right? So if we're looking at average interest rates among all lenders across the US, right now on a 30-year fix, you're roughly 3.21%. On a 15-year, you're on 2.57. FHA, you're in the 2.88 range. Jumbo, 3.13. And then adjustables, like if you're on a 5-year adjustable, you're still in that 3% range. So not a big difference there. Now, the interesting to me is that, obviously that's 3.21 on a 30 years where the national average is, right? So for guaranteed rate, I mean, we're 2.875 to 3.125 is the range that we're at on a 30 year. And then like on a 15 year, we're 2.25 to 2.5, right? So a majority of the time when I've kind of watched and analyzed these numbers, we're historically, a good eighth, if not a 1/4% lower than what the national market average is, which is great. But the overall trend is still, I mean, we're still expecting an upward trend, right? I was just in a meeting this past week, earlier this week rather, and it's one of those things where, hey, we're either going to be at 4.5% next year, or we're going to be exactly where we're at now, right? Which is just, so it's one of those things where it's still 50-50 on what's going to happen with interest rates, because, even though inflation is a problem right now, it may or may not work to increase rates to help stall that, right? Or to help lower that. So again, what we've been preaching for the last 6 months or however long we've been doing this is, if you have the ability to purchase a new home or refinance, you need to get after it. And again, not to say that you won't be able to next year. If rates happen to go up, it's just going to cost you a little bit more, right? So again, not the end of the world. It's not going to prevent you from being able to do something. It's just going to, at the end of the day, it's going to cost you more money.
So with let's move on to these new conventional loan limits. We've been talking trends for 6 months, and it's trending about the same.
It is. It's slightly up, slightly down. It's kind of what we've seen.
Expecting it to go to possibly 4.5. So
the moon. It's going to go to the moon next year.
Probably a month and a half now. So
anyway,
the Fed raised the limits on conventional loans. So
big news this week. Yeah, for sure. It's been we knew it was coming, a couple months back. As a matter of fact, we were, back 2 or 3 months ago, we were able to lock loans at the higher loan limit. We didn't have an exact on what it was going to be, and now we do. So the FHFA came out and said, hey, we're going to take the conforming limit from its present amount of 548,250, and we're going to increase that to 647,200. Now, the conforming limit is different than, say, FHA or VA. A conforming loan is essentially any loan amount that's under that pre-described limit. That amount and below is what's called a conforming loan. So anything in that range, which before was the 548,250, now at 647, you can do as little as 3% down for a first-time home buyer, or 5% down for somebody that's owned a home in the last 3 years. Now, the big impact of that, right, is from a buying power perspective, right? We know how the cost of homes is obviously it's still continuing to go up here in North Texas. Previously, you were capped at about a 575 purchase price to be able to do 5% down, right, on a conforming loan. Now, with the increase in limits, it takes you up to roughly $681,000 and only needing right around 5% down.
Okay.
Now, how people always say, well, what is that in the grand scheme of things? How is that different, or how does that compare to a jumbo loan, right? So let's take 5 years ago when the conforming limit was like 417,000. That used to be the conforming limit here in DFW, right? So back then, essentially anything over 417,000, you would have to put the difference, and then depending on how high you got, right? So on 417, if you were looking at a $525,000 home 5-10 years ago, you were having to put $100,000 down. Because essentially that would bump up to the jumbo category, or what's called a non-conforming loan, right? So non-conforming or jumbo is essentially anything above that conforming limit. So yeah, back 5-10 years ago, if you're looking at a $500,000 house, you were having to put almost $100,000 down, which again would either get you to that conforming limit, or that's the minimum requirement for jumbo, right? So oftentimes, if you're going over that conforming limit, a jumbo loan, in a lot of cases, there's some cases where it doesn't, but in a majority of cases, you have to do 20% down. So that's the biggest difference. Also, jumbo's a lot less flexible when it comes to credit and employment and reserves and all those things. There's a lot of additional layers and stipulations that are required. So again, with the rise in home prices, this increase in conforming limit, it's great news. We're also expecting FHA. So FHFA, that is the agency that governs conforming loans, conventional loans for Fannie and Freddie, right? Not to be confused with FHA, which we're expecting FHA loan limits to increase as well. We don't know that exact dollar amount just yet. So that is, more news that'll follow. So stay tuned for that.
Okay. And what's the reasoning home prices climbing? Is that the reason for the rate, for them raising the loan limit, or?
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, yes. Yeah, so it just allows, from an affordability standpoint, so it allows people to be able to purchase a little bit more with less money down.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and again, as long as the current loans are performing, meaning we're not seeing a bunch of folks defaulting or foreclosures and stuff like that, this is kind of, we'll probably continue to see probably this over periods of time. I don't know how what the ceiling or what they're looking to get to, but I would imagine as long as loans continue to perform, which now, right, in kind of this current day and age, you have to fully qualify to purchase a home, right? There's no stated income, there's no stated assets programs based on your 740 credit score, right? We want to see income docs, we want to see credit, we want to see your bank statements. So going back to conversations that we've had before of whether or not this is a bubble, right? And the fact that it's not, because there's less inventory currently than there ever has been, right? Before in the past, builders aren't building as much as they have. And then again, at the end, the biggest component there, I think, is responsible lending. So lenders are, crossing T's and double checking I's to make sure that, again, we're not going to have a foreclosure in 6 months, right? I mean, that's what they want to prevent from happening. So.
Okay. All right, well, let's get caught up on our current real estate market and the trends. So over the last couple of weeks, not a lot has changed since our last time we talked. So here in Collin County, overall, the county, you're looking at about 1.8% over list price for your sales price, so nearly 2% over. Obviously, in certain pockets, those numbers change. I've been running some comps in the McKinney, Prosper area, lots of them, and that number is going to be more 107 to 112 in McKinney, Frisco, in that area. So we've got to remember this includes all of our areas, and a lot of those areas are beginning to be rural where these homes are being sold. Your Princetons, Blue Ridges, on the edge of Collin County. So anyway, if you're in the middle, in the heart, Prosper, Salina, Frisco, I'm expecting 107 to 112, 7 to 12% over asking is kind of your average to max. Still 7 days on market, and we did tick up 1/10 of a month on the supply in Collin County. Denton County, trending the same. It always very close to Collin County. We've been kind of seeing as we've gone through this. Once again, almost 2% over list price. I bet in certain pockets of Denton County, your West Frisco, your Little Elms, and some of those areas, I'm sure you're still seeing 7 to 12% over in those pockets. 7 days on market, and then you still have the 0.9 month supply, not a full month supply in Denton County. Dallas County, everything stayed the same, still a little bit under list price for the sales price. 11 days on market, and they actually got a 1.2 month supply. And Grayson County, where we've been talking about, you can get a deal. You're not going to get a deal there much longer.
Not much longer, boy. Y'all better hurry.
It ticked up again this month for the sales price to list price. So it's at almost 2%. 14 days on the market stayed the same, but the reason prices is going to start going up there is because their inventory is dropping. It dropped, 4/10 of a month supply. It was 2.1 last time we did this, 1.7 now. I expect when we look at it in the next couple of weeks, it'll be closer to a month probably. Going over to Tarrant and Parker County, Tarrant stayed much the same or all the same, just a tad over list price, 8 days on market, and 1 month supply in Tarrant. And then Parker County, also it ticked up 0.1% on the sales to list price. I think it was 98.3%. So ticking up toward that 99%. So it's moving up. 13 days on market, and then a 2.1 month supply stayed the same in Parker County. So next thing I want to show you a little bit is a lot of people talk about the seasonality of our business in real estate. And a lot of buyers or sellers are asking, is this a good time to sell or not? And I don't know. I know Chris will tell you the same thing. I know he does a ton of business in the fourth quarter during this holiday season. And the Oldham team, we do a lot of business during this time of year. We've had great success listing houses in December, prior to Christmas, during the Christmas holiday. We've had lots of luck. But I just wanted to put numbers don't lie. I want to put this little infographic up. Heading into the end of the year, people do wonder if it's a good time to sell. But here's some stats from the National Association of Realtors. So currently, housing inventory is 13% lower than this time last year. So how that would benefit you as a seller is, as we talk on here every week, the lower the inventory, the more competition, which leads to higher pricing, what kind of leads us to this next thing. In September 2020, home prices, are up nationwide since this basic time last year, 13%. So I don't know that you can see that, but I believe it's 311,000 up to 352 over the course of the last year. what that home price value. So higher home prices mean your house may sell more than you'd expect. 17 days on the market. So you're going to get a fast sale, fast close. Buyers are paying a lot of sellers' costs these days. So it can benefit you in that way, your total net. And then sellers are receiving an average of 3.7 offers. Remember, these are national averages. So obviously, the more offers you get, the more options you have as a seller. If you need lease backs, waiting for your next house, if you need some of your costs paid, any and all of these things are on the table when you have multiple offers. You can pick and choose, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. So to answer anyone's question that's on the fence whether or not now is a good time to sell, the answer would be yes, because you never know what tomorrow brings. Tomorrow could be a completely different story, unfortunately. So now is the time. So just to follow up on that, a house we have currently under contract, I think it was right before Thanksgiving, we went on the market. We'll be closing this next week. But I just wanted to show you basically how some comps I ran. These are comps I ran for the listing appointment, showing my seller what I believed we should ask, what we should put on the market for, and what I thought we would end up receiving. So the next slide is actually going to show the comps that I left for the appraiser, because the comps that I ran, we listed that house at 199.9. We received 7 offers, not the 3.7, but we had 7 offers in about 2 days on this particular listing. And the winning offer was for 230, which, and during the repair negotiations, they asked for some money back. And so basically this house is closing at about 227.5. We had all of the seller's costs paid. Title was paid for, no home warranty was asked for, buyer paid for the new survey, and gave us $31,000 over ask. So anybody asking if this is a good time to sell, the answer is yes. This home
100 times yes.
Yeah, 100 times. This home actually needs work before the buyer will even move into it. But it was not things we had to repair for them. We're giving them some money and they'll fix it and move in. So anyway, to answer your questions, is it a good time to sell? The answer is yes, yes, and yes again. So I know Chris is running still a ton of buyer applications. So if Chris is taking buyer applications, that means people are out buying. So,
yes.
So anyway, just wanted to go through those to basically show you what I'm going to deliver to you at a listing appointment, to show you where we're going to start, and then what I'm going to do to support what we actually end up getting. So
yeah, there's definitely an art to what you start and list at, right? I think you guys do a great job of not starting too high, because we've seen, you and I both have seen the, hey, we're gonna swing for the freaking fences, man, and list as high as we can. And the last thing that you want to do is to have a listing sit, right? Because it could be an amazing home listed too high, and then it sits, and the first thing people think about, oh, what's wrong with it, right? So regardless, if you drop it after that point in time, it's now been on the market for 30 days, it hasn't had any offers, and then you go and drop it to appropriate levels, and it just doesn't do any justice. So working with professionals that will give you the data, support the information that they're talking about, and not only not only get your home sold, get it sold in a timely fashion for, for top dollar that's going to be out there and that'll be supported. The last thing you want is an agent that's just going to list it for what you tell them to list it for. Because again, you're not the professional as a consumer, right? At the end of the day. So
yeah, it's great to have clients that hire you for advice and then take that advice.
yes,
So
for sure.
generally makes for a smoother transaction. So
Absolutely.
Chris and I appreciate you guys joining us each week. We would love to be your resource for current scoops on the market, and we feel we're your best because we're local. Just like I just showed you, national averages, locally, all of our averages are higher than those, I would believe, or in the days on market, we're less. So
yeah.
Anyway, reach out to Amy or I, 469-369-0873, if you're interested in selling, buying, or investing in real estate. And reach out to Chris if you're somebody that still may need to refi. There's a few of you out there, I'm sure. Or also Chris can get you pre-approved quickly in this market. I'm encouraging my buyers to get through the underwriting process, which I believe Chris does from the get-go anyway.
Absolutely.
A lot of times you have to ask your loan officer to put you through underwriting. Chris's company does it straight from the get-go, and it makes you a stronger buyer when you go out. And all we have to tell the listing agent is all we're basing our approval on is the appraisal of this home. And when you're able to say that, it moves you to the top of those offers.
Very top. Yeah, absolutely.
And even over those cash offers a lot of time, because you're probably offering more money with a loan and then a cash buyer is.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Whether or not you use Chris or not, I would encourage you to go through underwriting when you're getting your pre-approval if you're serious about buying. But I would highly encourage you to reach out to Chris to go through this process. So,
I agree. I mean, I couldn't agree more. So
but anyway, we'll be back with y'all next week with some new stats, some new information. Have a great weekend. Chris, appreciate you joining.
See y'all next week.